Well, hey group leaders, Daniel back with you here for the last week of our online group training. I know that many of your groups are already going, and like some of you, my group is just going to be getting started the first week of September. So whichever boat you're in, I just want you to know that the leadership of Woodlands is praying for you. I'm praying for you, and I hope you know that I really believe in my heart that disciple groups is the most important ministry of our church. And so I want to again just thank you one last time for your service and for your commitment and for your leadership in these groups. And I just want to encourage you and thank you and tell you how excited I am for our groups to start and to see our people grow through this time. Over the first 3 videos, I gave you several tips and tricks about the DNA of our groups. I've said over and over again that our groups are going to be different, but hopefully our DNA is the same. Just like a family's DNA is the same, but each individual has its own individual characteristics, our groups should be the same. They should have the same similar DNA, but they should look a little bit differently depending on who's in your group. My last video today is going to be about troubleshooting in the groups. And this is really kind of some nuts and bolts things that happen in groups over a year's time that we want to help you with, and maybe we'll help you head off a problem ahead of time. The first thing I want to mention right off the bat is that if you run into any trouble in your group, please don't hesitate to pick up the phone and call Mike or I. We would love to chat with you, encourage you, and help you through any situation. And so if you just feel in over your head or you're ready to make a decision but you're not sure if it's the right one regarding something that's going on in your group, please just give us a call and let us know, and we are going to be totally there to encourage you, help you, and coach you through any of the issues. So I've got a couple of questions of my own that I'm going to answer, and then a couple of you guys talk to me about some questions you have for groups as well. And so we've got 4 total questions that I'm going to run through, and I'm going to try to run through them relatively quickly today. The first one is how do I get my group to be committed? And without a doubt, this is the number one thing that happens in most groups. They struggle with people being committed to the group. And so I'm going to tell you I'm going to give you a couple of tips and tricks to help you keep your group committed and going throughout the whole year. Number 1, right out of the gate, set a high bar. Like, let people know you expect them to be at group 90% of the time. And don't tell them that the first week of group. Tell them that before they even commit to your group. I had a great guys group last year. Really phenomenal growth, accountability, challenge happening in that group. But we had a core group of maybe 6 or 7 guys, and then we had another group of 6 or 7 that would just kind of come and go. And it made for a difficult dynamic in the group. This year, when I got a hold of all of my guys to start the year, I let them know right out of the gate, like, I want to know if you're committed, and if you're not, that's okay. Just let me know. I want them to know that I'm taking groups seriously, and I want them to be there every single week. So let them know that you expect 90% attendance and that you're going to hold them accountable to that. The second thing you want to set is you want to let them know that you expect a text or a phone call that they're not going to show up. If people just think they can come to group one week and then not show up the next week without any communication, that's a terrible precedence to set. You want them to have to pick up that phone and at the very least send you a text message. So make sure that people know that they have to let you know if they're going to miss a group. Now, there's nothing wrong with reminding people. I remind my guys about group every single week, and in fact, I try to even, if I can, send an extra text message or make a phone call to my guys throughout the week, but stay in touch with them and remind them. That's helpful as well. If there's 1 or 2 particular people that are a problem, you're just going to have a conversation with them and let them know, hey, we want you in this group. I want you in this group. I believe God wants you in this group, but I need you to be committed. And so at some point, you have to have that one-on-one conversation. And something you're going to notice as I go through these 4 troubleshooting questions today is that that's an answer to almost any difficult situation, is that you just have to take someone to the side and have a conversation about whatever the issue might be. And attendance is one of those things. Don't blast someone in group. Talk to them before or after or during the week. Give them a phone call. And then the last tip I want to give to you about having a committed group is you yourself and the group itself needs to stay consistent. One of the things that I found is that if you cancel group, it's hard to get that momentum going back forward. And so if at all possible, don't cancel group. And if you can't be there one week for group, get someone to fill in your place. And that's something you should be looking for anyway, right? We talked about that before, about a reproducible process and having an idea of an apprentice, of someone you're raising up to be a group leader eventually. Have that person prepared in case you're going to miss a group 1 week. Okay, that's question number one. My group lacks commitment. How do I deal with it? Question number two is this. I have a problem person in my group, or I have a problem situation. Well, number one, the biggest thing that's going to help you with problems in your group is forming relationships, okay? If your group revolves only around Bible study and head knowledge, and you're never connecting with anyone on a heart or spiritual level, it's going to be very, very difficult to talk to someone when there's a problem in the group. Now, when you have relationship with someone, you know about them, they know about you, you've shared life together, there's trust, you're going to be much more able to deal with that problem. One of the ideas that I like to use as an example is a relational bank account. Like if you don't have relationship with someone and you need to talk to them or discipline them or confront them about something, like there's no money in that bank account because you don't have relationship with them, so you can't go to the bank and take money out, okay? When you have relationship with someone and you're sharing your life with them and you're sharing your shortcomings with them, and they're doing the same with you, you're putting money into that bank account. And as you come to their care and their need when they might need it, whether it's physically, spiritual, or emotionally, you're putting more money and more money into that bank account. So when you need to have a tough conversation with someone, you can go pull that money out of that relational bank account without bankrupting yourself and ruining the relationship. Again, I'm going to say this, do not talk about a problem person in the group. Talk with them one-on-one, before group, after group, or really preferably talk to them during the week away from group time. One of the things that I've heard happen sometimes in groups is that it's far easier to approach a problem in a group setting in a general way. And I realize that that's easier, but it's not the right way to handle it. It's easier to say in a group, hey, I wanted everyone to be careful here about the things that they're sharing and make sure they're not sharing anything outside of the group. It's easy to say that, but if one person in the group is the offender and you're saying it to everyone, that one person knows exactly what you're doing. And though it was easier for you, really it's the cowardly thing to do. And so I want to encourage you to make sure that if there's an issue in your group, you're dealing with it with the person one-on-one. Don't discipline in general. And then if you have a problem person in your group or a problem situation, besides spending time with them to confront the issue, I want to encourage you to spend some time with them just outside of the group. Do something fun with them. Go get dinner with them. Take them bowling. Go miniature golfing. Whatever you want to do, spend time with them investing in that person again. So you're going to put money, so you can put money into that relational bank account so that later on when you need to talk to them about something difficult, you can. And I think that's a great way to head off potential problems. As you get to know people in a deeper way and you spend extra time with them, it'll help you to be able to have the conversations you need to. And I want to say it again, if you get to a point with the person where you feel like the problem is out of control, get help. Don't act impulsively, or don't make some big decision without talking to Mike or I for guidance. We don't want to see anyone in the group get hurt. We don't want to see groups get hurt. And so if you get to a situation which is super difficult, bring one of us into it and ask for help. The third question is this. I have some people that aren't engaged in the study we're doing. All they want to do is talk about themselves. So there's a couple of things that work here, and it works together with that last question that I mentioned, is that if you have a person in your group that's not engaged in what the group is studying, they're not engaged in the Bible story or the book that you're reading and studying, and they just want to talk about themselves, or they just want to gossip, or they just want to talk about their issues, like in some ways that's okay because you're building relationship. But if they're constantly disengaging the group, then that's something you have to deal with. And going back to the answer I just gave you, spend time with them and talk to them one-on-one. But the second thing I'm going to mention to you here is if you've got 3 or 4 people who are super engaged in whatever you're studying, and you've got 2 or 3 people that are disengaged in what you're studying, they're not reading the book, they're not doing the homework, and all they want to do is divert the conversation to something else, you need to stop and pause and be humble and consider if what you're using in your group is the right type of curriculum. I know for me, this is how I am. I like to read and talk about stuff and discuss things that get my juices flowing, that like make me passionate, right? You guys understand that. And so if I was going to always pick something for my group, I'd be picking Francis Chan and David Platt books and studies the whole time. And you know what? That would be awesome for half of my group, but it would totally cause me to miss the other half of the group. And so if you have people that are, some are engaged, you have a group that some are engaged and some are disengaged and it's frustrating you, take a step back and ask yourself if you're using the proper curriculum. I'm gonna tell you this again because I just believe in it. Bible storying is the best way to lead and teach your group. Using stories straight from the Bible, telling the story, retelling the story, reading the story straight from the Bible, and then asking questions, head, heart, and hands questions, which I could explain that more to you. That is the best way to run your group. We have a whole curriculum designed around that style that's on our website that's totally free. I'm going to throw out the offer again. If you're unfamiliar with our curriculum and you want to give it a shot, get a hold of me and I will come and I will walk you through it and explain it to you. And I'll even take time out to come to your group and walk through it with you as with your whole group if that helps. So some aren't engaged in studying, they want only to talk. Deal with it in relationship, deal with it one-on-one, and then stop and consider the curriculum that you're using and make sure what you're using is something that's good for the whole group. Last question. I have one or two people that will not crack, or let's put this in different words. I have one or two people who won't be real, transparent, and authentic. So let's imagine you have a group of 10 people and you've got 8 all-stars in your group that are engaged in the study. They're being real with one another. They're being transparent. They're being honest about their problems. They're being real with their failures and their successes. And that whole group of 8 is all holding each other accountable and challenging each other. And it's like so awesome and people are growing. But then you got 2 that just will not open up. They won't crack personally. They won't crack relationally. And they just won't open up. How do you handle that? Well, I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, but number one is stress the guidelines. Make sure that if you have a couple of those people in your group, you're going over those guidelines every week so that people know that they can trust. So if every week you're going back to those guidelines, those 9 principles, and if you don't have them, email me and I'll send them to you. If you're going over those every week, that should bring down the tension a little bit about sharing, because you're going to be talking about confidentiality every single week. The second thing you can do is you have to model this yourself. You have to be transparent. If those 2 people don't hear you sharing, they're not going to share, okay? You have to be real and honest for your whole group so that those 2 or 3 people who won't crack will come in. And here's a strategy. When you ask a tough question, you ask a tough heart question, and there's something on your heart to share with the group and you share it, when you're done sharing your very personal, transparent story, like turn to those people or that one person and look them in the eye and see if you can get them, because of the eye contact you've made, to crack a little bit. The other thing I'm going to say, and I'm going to say this again, is take them to the side and talk to them one-on-one. Hey, sharing has been great. Group has been great. I love that you're in my group. Just curious. It seems like it's been hard for you to share. Why has it been hard for you to share? And just let them talk. And they might say any number of things, but you just having that conversation with them and having them talk about why they're not opening up is going to begin to crack the egg, because it's going to open up this whole world for them of sharing something that's going on in here, which may lead to the following week them opening up to the group. And then the last thing I'm going to mention here is that you need to make sure that everyone in your group is participating. And a really good way to do that is if you've got a couple of people who are super shy and they're constantly not participating, instead of pointing them out and saying, hey, Dave, what do you think about that? Or, hey, John, what do you think about that? One thing I learned was, instead of pointing people out like that, is if this side of the room's always talking and this side of the room isn't, is just look at that side of the room and say, hey, I'm hearing all kinds of stuff from this side of the room. What does this side think? That way you're putting a little bit of pressure on those people, but you're not putting so much pressure on them that you're not going to see them again next week. So that's it for this week. That's troubleshooting, questions 1 through 4. I hope that helps. Know that Mike and I are always available to help you troubleshoot any issue or any question that you have, and we want to be here for you. If you have any issues in your group, text us, call us, email us. We will get right back to you. And I want you to know something. When it comes to disciple groups, they get first priority. Like I will call a disciple group leader back before I call one of the elders of our church back. Okay, like that's how important disciple groups are to me. So if you ever have any issues, please by all means reach out. I will be, or Mike will be, one of us will be contacting you on a regular basis just to see how your groups are going. Just because we want to be in the loop and we want to be supportive. So with that, I will see you Sunday, and I can't wait to hear about all of the success and all the growth that's happening in your groups this year. Have a great weekend.